Bonjour, désirez-vous et supplémentaire en français? Each team has 20 minutes to present its case to the judges. I will show a board for the 10, 5, last 2 minutes, and last 30 seconds of the presentation. During the last 10 seconds of the speech, I will indicate by using my 2 hands the remaining seconds. A team that hasn't ended its presentation after 20 minutes will be stopped to move on to the period of questions. The period of questions of a maximum duration of 5 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind each judge that it's mandatory to ask at least one question during this period. I will invite the judges to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hassan Kaya. I'm taking care of all the warehouses for Metro. I will produce dairy product and seafood.
Hi, my name is Martin. I'm the warehouse operations and projects manager for Lab Breweries in Saint-Tropez.
Hi, Anthony Cassandier, transportation manager for province of Quebec for Lab Breweries.
Magali Boulet-Boutique, people specialist in Montreal, and I also have a background in the logistics department.
Before we start, what is your team letter?
Picture this. You're at the cottage, you're with your family. At the end of a long day, out in the sun, having fun, you're sitting around after dinner, relaxing. What's missing from this picture? That's right, a nice cold beer. And as your family's needs change over the years and you grow and evolve into different activities, so too does your company. And so we're here to help you understand these changes and capitalize on them so that you can deliver this amazing product that people have grown to love over the years to more people throughout the future. Hi, myself, Austin, my colleagues Dylan and Charisse are going to be walking you through our analysis as well as some recommendations for how to get more efficient in your operations moving forward. So first of all, my colleague will take you through our mandate.
So your mandate today, although they're not large challenges, they are challenges that really can make a difference if perfected. So our mandate for you here today is to really improve your operational efficiencies in 4 areas, such as fleet management, warehouse operations, the delivery process, and finally operations tracking. And how we're going to support these changes is through identifying 3 key performance indicators. First, we're going to have really beating the emission standards goal for 2025, followed by having a total cost reductions of 25%, and then finally increase driver efficiency by 20%. So we have taken a look at the Lean Six Sigma and there are identified 8 operational wastes. Those are lubricant, overprocessing, overproduction, defects, talent, inventory, transportation, and finally talent. So we've identified 3 for you today that we can really we found and we can identify and thus provide you a recommendation. So for talent, we're going to really look at driver efficiency. That's one of our key performance indicators. For transportation, we're going to look at the fuel consumption, the purchasing or renting of new trucks, and finally waiting time. So the loading process and also the actual the process of the delivery itself.
So we began by looking at how you currently do your operations. How does the current system work? And where are some possible bottlenecks in this system? So with the current system, products are ready for loading. They go into a trailer and it approximately takes an hour. And at this time, the driver is waiting. He is in the building and his time is not being used effectively. So the truck either needs to be fueled or not at some point during the day in his operations. And the truck is going to travel to the location in which it makes deliveries. Now, when it makes a delivery, depending on what type of location you're delivering to, it's either going to be a drop-off location or an unload and stock location. In either case, it's either going to take 20 minutes or approximately an hour on average for that driver to unload the goods and then continue on his path of deliveries and finally return to the warehouse, in which time his day is done. And we've noted a few areas of significant bottlenecks in which inhibit the Labatt operations, especially at the loading of the trailer. the driver doesn't really need to be there to load the trailer. He's there, he's paid a higher wage than the warehouse workers. And the driver should be using that time to their advantage. They should show up to work and have the ability to hit the road and start making those deliveries to ensure that it's the most efficient system. The fueling takes 30 minutes, either if he's on the road or if he has to fuel before leaving. This is valuable time that the driver is, again, being paid a premium wage, and we can eliminate this inefficiency with some simple solutions. It still continues to travel to the location, and you have the drop-off and stock, where it's taking a driver an hour to unload this produce, unload these goods into the shelves and the stores of the dépanneur and different areas that don't have just simply the drop-off zoning. So we looked at some alternatives, and specifically the warehouse operations, and how we can improve how the warehouse is run. And there's 3 different kind of methods or theories that we can use. Either the conservative, looking ahead, or bold. So we can continue to have the driver with the current system, where if the truck needs fueling, it will be fueled, taking valuable time away from his routine. Or we could look at adding at the 4 largest distribution centers fuel stations, like they have on farming equipment in many distribution centers, where warehouse staff, they are licensed to drive the trucks, fuel the truck before the driver arrives. This process would take place overnight, ensuring upon arrival of the driver, the truck is always fueled. We could also do it at 8 stations, the 8 most large warehouses, except this is a very expensive endeavor and ultimately proves not to be efficient. So when we were just making decisions on what type of decision to make in all of our recommendations, we looked at the cost of the decision, the brand value that it's going to bring to Labatt, the external requirements which Labatt has to make to their existing customers, and the business risk that Labatt is going to incur. So we're going to begin with our recommendations, specifically to improve Labatt's operations. So in the fleet management side, if how things get around and how Labatt manages their trucks, we're going to look specifically at the maintenance structure. You have a very elaborate preventative maintenance program for your trucks to ensure they're always running, but it's very costly and time consuming, and we found a solution for that. We're going to eliminate the Tier 3 trucks, and those trucks are the trucks that are at approximately 11 to 15 years old, and these are the trucks that are producing 25% more emissions than the newer models. So by eliminating these, we're ultimately going to achieve that environmental goal that Labatt is attempting to achieve by 2025. It's a very simple step, and you're going to see that by eliminating this, we're actually saving money in the long run. And we're ultimately, with eliminating the Tier 3 trucks, we're going to be purchasing new equipment. In the warehouse operations, we're going to be building the diesel fuel storage systems and adding an outdoor loading dock at the large warehouses for the summertime operations, where you incur 80% capacity, where you're moving a lot more volume. Because it's summertime, the beer isn't going to freeze, and you don't need the trucks to actually drive into the warehouse. And with the delivery process, we're going to create a mandatory adoption of the drop loading. So no more time is going to be spent by the driver of implementing the beer into the refrigerators of the customer. They're simply going to make the delivery indoors of the customer's location, and the customer will have to do their own shuttling. And the operational tracking, we're going to conservatize the KPIs and increase our usage of the RoadNet software. So the new process flow is going to be, the truck is going to be fueled ahead of time. Either the truck is going to be noted as damaged or ready to go. If the truck is damaged, it's going to be replaced with one of those Tier 3 trucks that we took out of service. Because they still have some useful life in them, we're actually going to keep the low mileage ones on standby. We're going to have 2 loading docks in the summertime, one outside, one inside. This is going to allow for the trucks to be loaded simultaneously, doubling your efficiency and using the warehouse staff rather than the drivers. The driver's going to show up, he's going to take care of the travel and delivery, and there are only going to be 20-minute delivery stops now. When returned to warehouse, the driver is going to inspect for damage on the truck, and ultimately, Austin's going to take you through how this is going to save you money.
So currently you have a preventative maintenance schedule that's costing $8,000 a year per truck. And what this entails is going in for regular scheduled maintenance every 3 months to check on these trucks. So what we propose is removing that preventative maintenance step and having the drivers go through an annual checklist of their trucks every morning. These drivers are going to be very familiar with their trucks and they'll know what to look for. So if they go through a standardized checklist each morning, they'll be able to detect any faults early on in the process, and then at that time, they can take the trucks and they'll have them repaired. Now, to accommodate for the additional costs of potentially more repairs, we've seen that your actual cost per day of having these trucks repaired is going to go up a little bit, but this is a conservative figure because we don't believe that the cost of having the trucks going in for maintenance now will be that much higher, but you are going to see significant cost reductions by removing that $8,000 a year per truck maintenance cost. So, and as Dylan mentioned, the Tier 3 trucks are going to be phased out and used for replacement trucks when a truck does need to go to be repaired, because you'll need them every day and you can't afford to have a day off or for the customers to miss sales. In the morning, when the truck has been identified as needing repairs, they'll simply be taking another of the standby trucks and using that for the day. And you mentioned that you're looking at potentially purchasing 60 new trucks, and we recommend only purchasing 44. Now this is to accommodate for those Tier 3 trucks that are going to be phased out, and the newer trucks, again, will be better on fuel and will be breaking down less. So again, this is another reason why we're going to be removing that $8,000 a year preventative maintenance program. So as you can see, there are significant costs per tier because the Tier 3 and even Tier 2 trucks, as they're older, require a little bit more maintenance. Again, with using newer trucks, that cost figure will be lowered. So by removing the Tier 3 trucks and marginally increasing the actual maintenance costs of the trucks, you're looking at significant savings of $2.6 million annually. This is just in maintenance costs.
And so we looked at, there was the option of renting trucks rather than purchasing them outright. And ultimately, when you break down the costs of purchase price, maintenance fees, and the licensing fees, it ultimately comes out to be cheaper to own the trucks than the premium rental price annually. So renting is extremely expensive, and there's a lot of risk associated with the product or the truck not being available. So by owning them and possibly only using them at 50% capacity per year, where you're going to achieve a longer life for the trucks that you own because you're not using them as frequently, and ultimately renting is just extremely more expensive at the end of the day. So we recommend actually procuring the 44 trucks outright. So the new truck is the best option.
So again, touching on the fueling of your trucks, Dylan had mentioned that it's something that the truck drivers are doing right now, and it takes them about 30 minutes to fuel the trucks. So you're looking at labor costs of fueling your entire fleet of approximately $150,000 a year. Now these are costs that can easily be reduced and eliminated by installing in-house tanks to hold gasoline. So you already have negotiated deals with certain suppliers of gasoline. So if you can upgrade your facilities to accommodate that gasoline and refuel at your facility, you'll be able to realize immense savings. So we've been deciding between 4 and 8 locations to implement these fuel tank storages, and we recommend going with 4 locations for now because of the cost, and this is well within your $2.2 million budget per year. Now, again, touching on the delivery methods. So right now, we've estimated that about 65% of your customers are actually currently using the just drop-off method, which is only 20 minutes of the driver's time, as opposed to having to stock the shelves. So we recommend a mandatory rollout of this program over the next 3 years. So by doing this, you're only affecting about 4 customers a day on your standard delivery route that will be migrating to this new system, which results in a reduction of your delivery people's time of 2.6 hours to service the same amount of customers. So that is a significant reduction of the amount of hours worked, and this will translate to immense cost savings for you as well. So based on the seasonality of your business in the winter, summer, and the other months that are mid-peak seasons, you're looking at annual savings of close to $3.6 million a year just by rolling out this new procedure. And I understand that some customers might not be that receptive to this because they are used to a certain level of standard, but what we recommend that you portray to these customers is that these savings will eventually be passed down to them based on more efficient operations for you. So in the end, these customers will be benefiting, and also people really enjoy your product, and this is something that they want to see. So we don't believe that this will affect your sales. In fact, this will actually help based on your customers seeing these reductions in savings.
And so with the operational side of how you're tracking these, right now there's a lot of KPIs that are tracked in your database from an administrative side. And so we're going to reduce those KPIs and kind of what management is looking at to analyze day-to-day operations. So fuel consumptions and kilometers traveled are repeat KPIs that are hidden within the total cost of shipping, and ultimately is something that you're spending time on a daily basis repeating yourself. And these type of the elimination of this is going to ultimately save time, and this data can be aggregated from the other KPIs that you currently operate on. And we're going to rely, with these changes, on an increase in RoadNet software for maintenance. So with the elimination of the preventative maintenance schedule, RoadNet software is ultimately going to be tracking how many kilometers the trucks are traveling at. Ultimately, with the implementation of a dashboard, is going to alert management and maintenance staff when trucks have to go in for maintenance and they're taken off the road, and one of the X Tier 3 trucks will be put into service for that time period that these trucks are going through that maintenance. So ultimately, it's a usage-based maintenance system rather than a time-based monthly system. And with these changes, your operational tracking is going to see savings in time. So how are we going to implement this?
Thanks, Dylan. So we've set up a 3-phase implementation plan that spans 5 years. So the first phase, the goal for this is really going to be develop an infrastructure. So you're going to really focus on the procurement of trucks, the damage report system, also contact the fuel tank suppliers, really shop around for the best deals, also notify vendors of change for the mandatory adoption. You're really going to start this in the phase 1, give them enough time to really adapt themselves to this change, and also notify employees of the additional tasks of the overnight fueling. In phase 2, the goal will be change management. So this is where you're going to implement the mandatory adoption of the self-retail stocking, giving vendors enough time to really adjust. Then you're going to eliminate the preventative maintenance program, implement the overnight fueling that the employees were notified in phase 1, and then finally implement dashboards. And there's so many different softwares available, one being Portfolio that has low-cost services of dashboard implementations. And finally, for the third phase, which is going to be from year 4 to 5, the goal is to really recognize. So this is where you're going to build that outdoor loading bay and put it to use. We're going to reduce the amount of fleet size, and the planning for that will all be done in the first 2 phases. And then finally to evaluate the KPIs and really look at what's working, what's not, and why, and then also act accordingly.
So you've given us a mandate of looking at your costs and efficiencies. So we've suggested a strategy that will allow you to beat your emissions target by the year 2025 in reducing your emissions by 25%. One of the other main aspects was costs. We had a goal of reducing costs by 25%. Now in the affected areas, so fueling, driver salary, and as well as truck maintenance, you're looking at savings of up to 75% in those areas by implementing these strategies. And we wanted to look at increasing driver efficiency. So we've suggested measures that will increase your driver's efficiency by up to 28% per year, allowing them to service more customers better. So thank you for listening to our presentation today. At this time, we'll address any questions, and we hope that you will take these recommendations into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Just have one question for you guys. As far as all the strategy you proposed to us, do we have, is it the same strategy for all our warehouses? Or do we make a distinction between warehouses near Montreal or less?
So it's going to really target the large warehouses first and foremost. So the top 4, where you currently possess about over 20 trucks. And then those are going to be the big changes. And ultimately, it's going to trickle down to also the top 8, which is going to be about 10 trucks and higher. And so the great thing about this strategy is it can be implemented across all of the BAS eventually. So it's kind of geared, and so it can be increased or decreased. It's not one size fits all. It really implements to even the smallest size shops to the biggest warehouses that WebAS has.
Dylan, when you suggested the new process, particularly with the refueling at the station by the warehouse operators, not all centers have the ability to refuel on site. So with the trucks, once they're done with delivery, go to specific sites and get refueled. Are we specializing some centers in refueling, or are we looking to implement capital investments to have fueling stations at each center? What's the long-term plan?
Yeah, so great question. So Austin was talking about implementing, a capital investment on those large centers to really bring that fueling capability there if it isn't already there. And so, again, it trickles down to maybe the top 8 centers. And we looked at the costs of $1.2 million for the top 4 and $2.4 million for the top 8 to have those fuel services on site.
You spoke about reducing the fleet size at the end of the presentation. Considering we have 162 trucks in our fleet right now, and that you're also suggesting to keep Tier 3 trucks, the older one, how are those 2 elements being executed, and how is it possible?
So based on your seasonality of your business, so the peak months being in the summer and low months being in the winter, and not all of your trucks are currently being used. So as the Tier 3 trucks begin to age and are almost ready to be phased out completely, those will be put on standby. And you're not going to be replacing all of them, so you're only going to be, as opposed to buying 60 new trucks, you're only going to be purchasing 44. So your trucks are going to be used at a higher capacity, because as they get phased out when they age, you're not going to be replacing all of them because of that excess capacity that you have based on the different months.
From the 3 trucks we presented you as an option of purchase, which one would you buy and why?
We recommend the regular diesel trucks because with trucks like the Tesla electric truck as well as the natural gas trucks, this specialized equipment can be extremely costly to repair because products aren't standardized like replacement parts. So those types of maintenance costs will be astronomical if something goes wrong. So it's suggested to stay with the current trucks and based on the fleeting strategy, that will help you reduce emissions in the future.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.